Hey, it's Soul with news, opinions, and who-to-what-its, and we're gonna continue the kind of speculation week theme that I've been doing. So I'll jump right into it with a question. Are we going to keep our artifact weapons? And as a system, I want to say that I'd be fine either way. Like, I'm cool with artifact weapons as they are right now. At the same time, it is nice to kind of go back to the weapon system of old. But overall, I like the concept of having this weapon that we kind of build up over time. From a roleplay perspective, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that we keep replacing weapon after weapon after weapon, but it does feel cool as we do like these little augmentations as we go along. Gameplay wise, this really doesn't feel any different. We still go from dungeon to dungeon or from quest to quest. We get little minor upgrades here and there, and we gripe about not getting the right thing, so mechanically it doesn't feel all that different. As for our artifact weapon itself, as for, like the Doomhammer or the Ashbringer, absolutely, I definitely think we're gonna get rid of them. But as for how, there's been a couple of different theories. In the final fight, or whatever the last encounter or last major event of the expansion is, somehow we're going to drain our artifact weapons, render them useless, and then ta-da, that's it. We no longer have our artifact weapon. And that just sounds really corny to me. It reminds me of like anime or kid shows where they hold up their magical weapon or they use the power of friendship to defeat the boss, to close the portal, to overcome whatever it is that they're trying to overcome. And that's lame. If I had the Ashbringer, I don't want to use it to channel something. I want to bring ash. I want to chop stuff in half. I really hope that they don't make me like a Power Ranger, just have me hold my sword and shield up and then ta-da, stuff happens. And before, during the alpha and the beta, there was a big concern that I had. I made a video many moons ago about how much Blizzard was putting emphasis on the artifact weapon. Like, for example, in the early part of the High Mountain questline, when Dargul, that big monkey-looking dude, when he smashes that hammer and wrecks that village, and people are kind of stuck in those giant stone fists, you're supposed to go up, you right-click on them, and you get them out. Before, in the alpha, when you were trying to get them out, it literally said in the cast bar, channeling your artifact, or something like that. And when you broke them out, the named NPCs, they would be like, oh wow, your artifact, it's so awesome. Oh, the power of your artifact. And I thought that was like totally cheesy. And that happened throughout the alpha experience. So thankfully that changed. And while the artifact system is a big part of the expansion, the artifact weapon is a lore kind of thing. They kind of downplayed it a little bit. So I really don't think they're going to do something as cheesy as that to get rid of it. Or at least I hella wouldn't want them to. I'd like to think that instead we would get rid of our weapons, and there are different ways to go about it, but my favorite would be that we kind of pass them down or get rid of them. But my favorite, at least lore and story-wise, is that we would let go and relinquish our weapons. At the same time, we would abandon our leadership of our post, because it doesn't quite sit well with me that we started off as adventurers, and then we became champions, and then we became commanders, and then order hall leader whatevers. The whole escalating thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense from an MMO perspective, where you want to try to preserve the fact that the game will just kind of last forever. You'll continue to do things like explore and do dungeons and things like that. It just doesn't make sense if all of a sudden you're like the king. So I think that there's going to be kind of a way to get out of both order halls and be able to relinquish our artifact weapons back to the people that we were working with, without burning too many bridges. As for why we get rid of our artifact weapons, I'd like to think it's because we got tired of leading. I think some sort of event is going to make us just kind of walk away from everything. I do think that it'd be really cool that after all this escalation of threat and prestige in part of our characters, that something happens around the end of Legion that makes us be like, wow, this ain't cool at all. And leading up to the next expansion, it'll become a much more personal story for our characters, where we just walk away from like everything. Like, at least for a while, we kind of wander off to like some island or some other continent that was previously undiscovered, something like that. We just temporarily leave, and that's sort of the starting experience of the new expansion, where we explore this new land, we see what's going on, people hear about what we've done, but largely we try to step away from like the whole world threat, and we just kind of concentrate on what's going on the planet that we're on. So where is Wrathion? Wrathion actually has a kind of interesting history. If you guys didn't know already, Wrathion did have a part in the Legion storyline. If you were doing the High Mountain questline, you might remember a dude named Spirit something Ebonhorn. That's the guy. There's a guy named Ebonhorn who takes part in the High Mountain questline, and at least as of right now, we find out, oh, he's like one of the last black dragons, and we help him out, and he repays his loyalty by continuing to serve the High Mountain tribe and whatever. In the Alpha and Beta, though, Ebonhorn was actually Wrathion, and he had an agenda to get into Neltharion's lair, to his old man's place, and get to those eggs, because he wanted to recreate the black dragonfly. So he had an agenda. For whatever reason, it was dropped, and it kind of makes sense, because the whole High Mountain questline is about getting the tribes together and things like that. And if we find out that Ebonhorn has been Wrathion like this whole time, that doesn't lend too well into that storyline of getting the tribes together, uniting everyone against the actual threat. What it does mean, though, at the very least, is that Blizzard has not forgotten about Wrathion, so hopefully we'll see him later in the expansion, in a future expansion. Hopefully he just hasn't been abandoned. Clearly they were trying to do something, it just didn't work out this time around. Just bring them back, give us something cool to look forward to. You know, there is a lot more that I can talk about, but I'm gonna cut this thing a little bit short. I'd rather not just kind of, you know, smash everything into one long ass video. But I am gonna wrap this up with one more quick question. Is Jaina Proudmoore a Dreadlord? And I think that despite all the evidence and you know, all the different arguments that players have made, it would be pretty ridiculous if Jaina was a Dreadlord this entire time, or, you know, ever since X amount of time. It wouldn't surprise me that ever since that she left the Kirin Tor, you know, like at the very beginning of Legion, that she did get taken over by a Dreadlord or something like that. But before that, no, I don't think so at all. And here's why. Dreadlords are meant to infiltrate and sow seeds of distrust. You know, they're meant to make bad stuff happen between otherwise allying factions, and we've seen that with the whole thing with the Battle of the Undercity. However, Jaina / Dreadlord has not done a very good job of getting people to fight each other. I recall the events during the Mists of Pandaria where she pretty much kicked out the Horde from Dalaran, but that's only like a little purging. That's not, you know, that's not as big as taking over the freaking Undercity. In Warlords of Draenor, I don't recall her having a very active role, but, you know, Warlords of Draenor seems like it was a dream. You know, like it never happened. And around the start of Legion, she just leaves. That makes for a really crappy Dreadlord. I mean, you don't just leave, you stick around. You try to manipulate things and make bad stuff happen. I could probably make a more effective argument that Gen Greymane was taken over by a Dreadlord. I mean, it was him that came to the quick conclusion, oh my god, the Horde is abandoning the Ridge, you know, they suck. And then of course there's all the fighting that he and Sylvanas were doing over in the Stormheim zone. And on top of that, towards the end of the Stormheim scenario, you know, during that whole fight between between Sylvanas and Greymane didn't kill her. He probably had the opportunity to do it, but he didn't. He kept her alive. And I think that the reason why was to make Sylvanas desperate. Of course, you know, she's trying to do her best to keep her people alive and all that stuff, but she is the leader of the Horde, which means that if she's still kept alive, Greymane knows that she's pretty aggressive with what she's doing. So if Greymane was a Dreadlord, it would make sense to keep the fight going. That way, both the Horde and the Alliance would weaken each other a little bit more, and ultimately this would be kind of a strategic win for the Legion, because you still have the Horde and Alliance fighting each other. If Sylvanas were to like die, you know, and the mantle was left up to Bane or Lothamar, they would probably try to negotiate a sort of truce or something, or something while they fight the Legion, and I don't think that a Dreadlord would want that to happen. So no, I don't think Jaina's a Dreadlord. She's still traumatized from the events of the Theramore bombing, and thanks to that, her character development has kind of stagnated, and it just kind of sucks. But on the other hand, I do think Gen Greymane is probably being influenced by a Dreadlord, or he is one himself. Okay, so now I'll wrap it up. Hopefully, as the Legion storyline goes along a little bit more, I'll be able to revisit other questions that I put down, but I decided at the last minute to not get into it. Things like Ashara, things like who's going to be the next troll leader, what's going on with the old gods, is the Azeroth Titan going to wake up, what's Magni Bronzebeard up to now. So if you got any comments, or if you have any theories to share on your own, hey, go ahead and share them down in the comment box thingamajig below. So I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a great rest of the day. I am Soul. Stay breezy, guys.